Welcome to another exciting episode of Tazama. My name is Lydia. We are at the Nairobi Arts Center in Lavington, and I am joined by Charles, who is a pottery instructor. So tell us, what kind of pottery do you do here at the Art Center?
Here at the Nairobi Art Center, we do what is called stoneware pottery. Stoneware pottery is the middle pottery between earthenware and the porcelain pottery. So it is fired between 1150 degrees to 1250 degrees Celsius.
Fantastic. So what kind of pottery will I be doing today?
Today, basically, you'll be joining the trend of getting from the basics of pottery, but basically concentrating a lot on throwing. So we'll take you through how to knead clay, get the clay prepared nicely so that it's ready for production of pottery.
Okay, so as we gather our equipment, how about you look at our first story of the day?
I found a new hobby. Well, it's not exactly a new hobby, but it has everything to do with yarn and a crochet hook. Most people call it crochet, but it's a French word, it's crochet. Now, our mothers used to crochet, and they used to crochet baby hats, we used to call them boucheries, baby shawls, baby booties, and even vitambas, tablecloths. Today I want to find out whether this culture can still come back to life, even though a few individuals have clung to it. And by this, I'll be making something small for myself. This doesn't look like it's bearing results. I need a crochet. I need this.
Crocheting, according to Wikipedia, has no historic pioneer. In Kenya, the craft was usually practiced by mothers and grandmothers in yesteryears as a pastime hobby that brought an aesthetic appeal to homes. Unfortunately, manufactured woolenware replaced such pieces and made them old-fashioned. Tazama meets up with two Nairobi County women, Mrs. Elizabeth Lashimpiro, who has kept the crocheting hobby alive, and Olivia Mutai Kabugi, who is gaining an extra shilling from it.
Currently, I work as an administrative assistant. I discovered crochet in 2010. It was when I was at home that I came across an interesting Afghan throw. Then I decided to try and do it because it looked very nice. And I downloaded the pattern, went and got yarn and my crochet needle, and I began.
I'm a retired police officer. I retired the year 2012. I started knitting in the year 1980 when I got my first born. I used to enjoy it because I found my mother knitting. Even today, I knit, but not like before.
The difference between crocheting and knitting largely lies in the equipment in use. While crocheting uses a single crochet hook, knitting uses two thick, equal-sized needles. There are 6 basic crochet styles: the chain stitch, which is the simplest, the slip stitch, the single crochet stitch, the half double stitch, the double crochet stitch, and the treble or triple crochet stitch.
It will take me for 2 days to crochet for a baby show and 7 days for adult.
Personally, a headband takes me about 30 minutes. I can do the flower in about 20 and the band itself in about 10. So putting it together, probably another 10 minutes. But if I'm doing a sweater, it takes a bit longer, especially because a sweater is a bit more complicated than a flower. Or an Afghan throw, because of the size, it takes longer. Because I think we have the potential actually to do this on our own without having to rely on the mass markets. I think we should encourage people to go this way, because then you create employment for someone who can do this. And it's long-lasting compared to the mass-made items.
Crochet has got numerous advantages. It is a relaxation and mood enhancer, it fosters creativity and is profitable as a business, and it also fosters companionship and charity among communities. To put my creativity skills to the test, each of the ladies will show me how to crochet one of their easiest designs in half an hour. After my 30-minute challenge, I'd crocheted a scarf with Elizabeth Leshimpiro and a flower with Olivia Kabugi. Crocheting can be difficult for somebody who's starting out as an amateur, and especially when you have jargon involved. But someone like me who's a first-class beginner, this is not too bad. And especially the Tazama colors, yeah? Really good.
Okay, so Charles, tell me, what do I do first?
Before you start making pottery, you make sure your clay is in the right consistency. To do that, you need to get your clay and knead it into a dough that it becomes soft. So after that, kneading it like that, you roll it into a sausage, like yours now is ready.
Okay.
You get your clay, turn into a little ball. When your clay is ready,
Yeah.
you take it to the potter's wheel.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
You put your clay on the top, hit.
Okay. I heat it down.
Yes. And then switch on the machine. Make your hands wet. Don't fear.
Okay.
The clay should be centered properly such that it goes simultaneously with the wheel. So we'll continue centering. Now the clay is centered. Now we do what's called opening. Opening is when you use your fingers and the other finger. Hello. To make a hole. Slowly. Now you use the speed. Yes. That's that you can control.
Okay.
Go out. There. We'll do what's called pulling up.
Okay. So the pot is ready and we want to remove it from here, from the wheel, and now set it to dry. Fantastic.
Yes.
So as we do that, why don't you join us after this break? Alright, so Charles, we're now taking this out to dry. Okay, fantastic. So while we do that, why don't you watch our next story?
Shida ile tumekuwa nayo sana sana ni ya maji.
Sisi hatujawahi ona ya mfereji, hiyo ni story. Imagine, na ati tuko Nairobi.
There are areas which have lacked water for more than 30 years in Nairobi.
The problem is here with us in Nairobi, where we have zero water supply.
Water. This is one of the most vital natural resources for life on Earth. Approximately 71% of the Earth is made up of water, which has not always been available when and where it is needed. On 28th July 2010, the United Nations Assembly declared safe and clean drinking water and sanitation a human right essential. In order to complement this, the 2010 Kenyan Constitution made access to water and sanitation a right to citizens. Despite this, acute water shortages have been a thorn in the flesh in Nairobi. Daily, the Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company supplies 570,000 cubic meters to Nairobi against 720,000 cubic meters we are meant to receive, meaning we have a deficit of almost 200,000 cubic meters. This has led to rationing, thus leading residents to resort to other ways of getting water. Mary Mweke is a resident of Old Donholm Estate in Embakasi for 2 years. And since she moved in, water has always been a problem.
Most of the time we miss water. It can come maybe once in a week or not at all. Yeah, and it has been like that for the past like 2 years I've been here. I use 500. Those are 50 jerrycans in a week. You can imagine buying water 500 every week, and sometimes more because I have a kid and my family is big. So I end up spending almost 5,000 in a month, just water only. We buy from water traders. They tell us they bring it from Sinai. There's a slum just opposite Caltex. Yeah, that's where they bring from. But we are not sure about it. But we don't have a choice. We have to buy at the end of the day.
I set off to Sinai, an informal settlement which is not far from Merriam-Webster's residence. I am guided to see how the residents there get water. Here I had to use a hidden camera for security reasons. One thing I realized is that this place does not seem to have a problem accessing water. This is because of the presence of many water pipes that pass through the area, but some of the residents have taken it upon themselves to divert them to their houses. Other diverted pipes have been covered so that their misdeeds are not discovered. I am told by a reliable source that majority of the diverted pipes here are controlled by cartels, who have made it a business of selling the water to the residents in both the settlement and the neighboring estate like Old Dunholm. These cartels have been known to be notorious, and early this week, 2 gangs clashed in Nairobi's Tasia estate over control of illegal water and power connections. Majority of the residents blame this on Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company employees.
It is illegal. They should not pump from our pipes.
Misusing the information you have on a valve to make people suffer is not part of your job description.
What I understand about residents, they cannot just go and dig a hole and connect water without the help of someone who works in the company.
The bodies that are supposed to carry out those duties, they fail to do so because of the cartels we have in between them and also a lot of high corruption rates. Yeah.
When you have illegal connection, that the water that is being consumed by the illegal consumer is being paid by you who is paying water illegally. So you should shout, you should report.
35 kilometers from Embakasi, we head to Marigoini and Kabiria settlements, which are in Waithaka ward, still in Nairobi. These 2 areas' existing pipeline was vandalized a long time ago, and this has led the residents to other risky alternatives.
Nimeishi Marigoini kwa miaka 18 kwa sasa. Kwa muda hiyo yote nimeishi hapa, kuna shida sana ya maji. Kutoka nioleke huku 1986 sikukuta maji mpaka wa leo.
Ninaitwa Monica Kivuria. Nimeishi Kabiria tangu nilizaliwa. Shida ile tumekuwa nayo sana ni ya maji. Kwa sababu tangu tulizaliwa hapa hatujakuwa na maji ya fereji.
Tumejaribu kuchimba visima, tunatoa kwa visima. Visima kukiwa na kiangazi zinakataa kutoa maji, tunaenda kununua mbali sana. Shida ya maji imeni-affect sana juu nilikuwa nimeanza biashara tayari kupika keki. Hiyo biashara maji kapotea, watu wakaanza kusema maji ni chafu, ninawapikia keki na maji safi. Sasa nikawacha hiyo biashara.
Imefanya nisumbuke kwa sababu hata tangu zamani watoto walikuwa wanaenda kuchukua na vibuyu huko Waithaka. Sasa tumesumbuka mpaka tukajaribu kusimba visima inakauka. Sasa wakati huu ile maji ilikuja ndio tumeona ni afadhali.
Residents have been using water from water vendors, boreholes and shallow wells due to lack of another alternative at the expense of their health. Monica cannot use the borehole water for drinking, hence has to look for clean water elsewhere. And as for Virginia, the water from the shallow well is not fit for human consumption and has affected her son's skin. This has led to her spending more for clean and fresh water for her family.
Ninatumia ya kupima kwa sababu ni maji ya kwenda kushota. Ninapima kwa sababu ni sasa nikimwaga sana, mimi nitaumia.
Kwa wiki moja ni lazima niwe na 500 za maji peke yake. Na saa hiyo maji sifui naye ni ya kukunywa, kupika na huyo mtoto juu ya kumuosha. Sasa ya kufua nguo ninatafuta kwa kisima. Nguo za white zimeanza kupalala. Zimeharibika sana juu ya hiyo maji.
Saa hii sisi ni wasee, tunashota maji mpaka unasikia wewe umechoka.
Kuna snails, unaweza kuja ukute ile kitu ya nyoka, sijui ni nyoka inakuwa inajitoa hiyo ngozi. Alafu unaweza kuja ukute hata vyura zimekufia huko ndani, unakuta skeleton ya chura huko.
That area does not have water at all. They survive on shallow wells. And these shallow wells, they are not sure of the quality of that water.
When we talk about water, everybody thinks of Turkana. But the problem is here with us in Nairobi, where we have zero water supply.
Recently, we constructed a line which is from the Dagoretti tank toward Gando. And we can be able now to connect them to our services. What we need to do is to work with their readers, and we see how best we can be able to improve the network in that area.
As the taps continue to run dry, bills from the water company continue to stream in for the residents.
It will come at the end of the month, but we still don't have water.
So if you give me a bill and I didn't have a service, what do you expect me to pay?
As long as you have a connection, you will receive a bill, because you have to maintain that connection. We have to maintain the network up to the point, and that's where we charge the minimum charge. But if your one is not getting water, I request the resident to give us a shout, because at least everybody in Nairobi is supposed to get water.
In one day, a normal household would use at least 5 20-liter jerrycans of water. On average, one 20-liter jerrycan costs 20 shillings, meaning in a day one uses 100 shillings. This translates to 700 shillings in a week and 2,800 in a month. A household receiving water on a regular basis and a bill from Nairobi Water on average is charged 600 bob in a month. This means that a resident who buys water from the vendors spends more as compared to one who receives water regularly and pays through a bill.
When you're in a water company, whether you are the top, the MD, you are the operator, you know you are there to serve, not to be served.
Saa ile tulielezana shida yetu ya maji kwa Nairobi Water, tukaambiwa tujaze forms, tuka-apply maji hii kijiji yote, na kwa hata wale hakuna kitu wamefanya.
Kuna watu wamekuja hapa wakatuchukua majina, na sasa ni kama miaka 10 imepita, hatujawaona tena. Wakasema tutaletewa maji, na tangu siku hiyo hatujawaona tena. Sasa ni kwenda kama mahali iko kisima, hata saa ingine tunaenda kununua.
You have to address consumer complaints. If you are not able to address a complaint, that is where we come in to enforce that aspect of you making sure that you address that complaint.
These complaints continue to come in from the residents, and in order to address them efficiently, Nairobi Water and Water Service Regulatory Board (WASREB) have introduced MajiVoice, which is an electronic system that consumers will use to forward their water complaints. Though, are residents aware of this electronic complaint system?
I've never heard about MajiVoice. MajiVoice? I've not heard of it.
I know of Nairobi Water, but the product?
All our complaints, we put them in MajiVoice. That way, we are able to track what is happening with the complaints, how are the complaints being resolved.
It is really going to assist the water company.
I guess with the level of the way things are being run in Kenya, it's something which we have to see it. Then we comment about it here.
So many guys out there with grievances regarding water supply, so I guess it will help.
For me, water services, consumer complaints is a key component of the integrity and credibility of your water service.
Tenants don't understand that they have a right to water. So they see it as a privilege by the landlord, which is not the case. So when that right is denied to them, like we don't have water in the residential areas, they tend to think that they have no right to complain.
So we want Nairobi residents to come on board and use the avenues which they have been given by the Constitution. which they are well, even they have been supported by the Urban Areas and Cities Act in the second schedule, which talks about how you can petition for service, lack of services in the county government. So it is high time they wake up and start addressing their own issues, not blaming this and this and this.
Some places like Gando along Ngong Road have been able to receive water after a long time after the intervention of the Water Action Group. This group is made up of volunteers who work in collaboration with water regulator WASREB by ensuring water is provided to the residents by forwarding their complaints to Nairobi Water.
The way forward is for everyone mandated to do a job, to do the right thing.
Napendekeza kama tunaweza kupata maji iletwe kwa nyumba, yani hata kama mtu muambie ni kiasi gani mnaweza lipa, mnalipa.
Water is a basic human right, so they should respect the constitution and provide water to the residents.
The very important thing is how to improve on the water sources. This will be able to increase the flows of water to the city of Nairobi. So by around 2018, we believe the water shortage in Nairobi will have been addressed.
The way forward is just continuing to plan and reviewing the plans and also implementing those plans, but also continuing having the strategic objective or perspective as you implement the plans.
Ningewahimiza na niwaambie tafadhali, watu wa Maliwini wameteseka miaka mingi. Tuna wagonjwa wengi, kizima huku watoto wanaanguka kwa maji, zingine ziko na nyoka, ngozi watu wamepalala sana, tuna shida ile baya sana. Kilio yetu sasa inaenda miaka 25, wakuje watusaidie, watuwekee maji tu.
In order to combat water shortage in Nairobi, all parties should be involved from the major stakeholders to the residents. Corruption and negligence continue to be the major factors that affect service in this country, and unless addressed, people will continue paying for service not offered.
So Charles, I'd like to know, how long does it actually take for this to dry?
Okay, once pottery has been done, it takes about 2 weeks to dry because pots have to dry very slowly under cool environment, cool dry environment. Once the pot are proven to be dried completely, depending on the size of the pot, they shall be taken to the kiln for firing.
All right, so now we know that this will take 2 weeks to dry. So could you show us an example of how it will look after 2 weeks?
Yes.
Do you have an example that we can show our audience?
Once the pots are dry, then they're taken to the kiln. Then the first firing they call biscuit firing, and that's the reason it's biscuit color.
So after fast firing, what's the next process?
If the pots are going to be used for planting live flowers or plants, they need to be left like this so that they remain porous for the roots of the plants. But if they are going to be used for holding water or liquid, or even for the food items, they need to be glazed. Glazing is the process of coating pottery with a special substance called glaze. And once they are glazed, the pots will come like that. And this is now watertight. From here, it's very, you understand, it's very translucent, and it's now very watertight. This is oven and microwave safe, and it can be used for any other thing.
I have really enjoyed myself. That was my first time doing pottery, and what do you think of my work?
I can say you are good because it's the first time you are handling clay, and I'm surprised you can make all such a nice pot in your first class. So it's good, eh?
Fantastic.
Yes.
I'm glad you think so. So that is it for today's episode. Be sure to look us up on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our contacts are on your screen. We always love to hear from you. So until next time, bye.